Over the many years I worked in acrylic on canvas, I developed a number of techniques to help achieve my aims. In my early painting project, I wanted to make canvases that were very smooth, with clean lines between painted areas and no brush strokes. Priming a canvas or wooden support with gesso will stop paint from soaking into its surface and make the paint easier to apply. So when you're priming a wood surface, you really need to apply the gesso to both sides of the wood, because if you leave the other side unprimed, it will absorb moisture and react differently to the primed side, and the board will get a curve in it. So yeah, paint both sides if it's wood. The more coats of gesso that are applied to a support before you paint it, the smoother it will be, allowing for cleaner lines and fine detail. A light sanding between coats helps. There's a few different techniques for getting clean, sharp edges on masked areas on paintings. And there's different types of tape available. This regular tape will do the job, but if you use this more expensive blue painter's tape, it's less sticky and it will peel away without lifting the paint back with it. Before I paint the masked area, I apply a coat of either acrylic medium, clear glue, or the white gesso of the support to the edge of the tape. This fills the areas where paint might bleed underneath with a clear substance, or with the gesso that's already there. It's best to use as little paint as possible and to brush along the edge of the tape rather than into it. This will prevent a ridge from forming where the two colours meet. When you apply the colour, 2 coats is usually better than 1. You need to wait until the first coat is fully dry before applying the second. I also wait until the second coat is mostly dry before removing the tape. When you pull the tape off the painting, it's better to go slowly and pull away from the painted area rather than towards it to prevent the paint from lifting. A few years ago, I began to experiment with oil sticks. I wanted to make paintings that combined hard-edged, flat areas with colourful, expressive sections and textures. When oil sticks dry, they form a skin, which you have to peel away each time you use them. Because it's oil, the paint takes a while to dry, so there's time to blend colours or scratch into them. Oil sticks clean up with terps. I use an odour-free version because terp smells pretty bad and can be toxic. You could also thin oil stick down on the painted surface with a rag and terps. Acrylic paint normally dries fast and quite flat, but you can add medium to the paint to change its qualities. Mixing impasto medium into acrylic paint gives the paint more body, which allows you to create built-up areas or brush strokes. Lots of other mediums are available as well and give different effects, such as making the paint dry more slowly or giving it a gloss or a matte finish. This paint's had an impasto medium added in, so these textures will remain visible when it dries. So there's lots of different textural effects you can achieve with these dry mediums. This one is a sand medium, so you get a sandy result when you mix it with the paint. But there's lots of different textures and kind of shimmering effects that you can buy these days. When I recently began working with fibre, there were lots of new techniques I had to learn or develop. I'd learned quite a few craft and sewing techniques at school when I was young, and their familiarity made using them in my work easy and nostalgic. To create fringes on the edge of my Hessian works, I developed an unravelling technique. First, I sew the edge where I want the fringe to stop, so that it doesn't unravel all the way up. I use cotton the same colour as the Hessian so the sewn line isn't visible. The sewn edge needs to follow the horizontal line of the weave fairly closely, but not exactly. In a painstaking and slow process, I pull the horizontal threads out of the weave all the way up to the sewn line. I can leave the fringe as it is, but often knot it into tassels. By using multiple layers of hessian, I experimented with ways to use the fringing to create an image. To paint on hessian, I found the best way to apply the paint was to sponge it within areas bounded by masking tape or paper. I had to find the right mix of paint and water so that the colour was easy to sponge on, but had a solid finish and didn't leak under the tape. I was able to achieve quite a sharp edge with this method. YouTube is a good source of information for learning about new techniques. I created quite painterly effects by embroidering with wool on hessian using a stitch I learned from an online tutorial. I also learned about natural dyeing techniques online and experimented with tea bags to tie-dye calico fabric to create this quite painterly effect. So even though online tutorials can teach you quite a lot, if you want more specialised information or you have a specific problem you need help with, it can be better to get one-on-one teaching at a workshop with an expert. And so when I was doing my weavings, they were turning out quite flat still, and I wanted to learn how to make more textured effects. So I attended a course at the Sturt workshops in Mittagong, where a weaving expert was able to show me how to do things like this, where you get these sticking out bits of fibre or wrapping bits together, and even this sort of knitted effect through the weaving. So that was really helpful to me to achieve a more sculptural effect.